These are the Learjet. Beautiful, beautiful machine. Super safe. And relatively cheap for US corporations. And there's this young man coming to pick his up. And not knowing that that plane is piloted by the same that is in all jets around the world, and that's that Mormon one. It's got something to do with Hillary Clinton. So that plane can be taken over by a satellite and flown, landed anywhere, or crashed into any building. There's not a thing you can do about it. They simply turn the air off at 51,000 feet and you're dead within seconds. I had a communication with Bill there about a steam car. And he wasn't interested at that time. Now, let's go back a bit. Bombardier, Learjet. It's the same corporation owned by the Mormons. Now, the leaders of the country are already dead. I warned them not to go underground. So, everything you see, as we've shown you in the last little while, Obama, 43%, Bombardier, 40%. The control system for the Learjet. It's $14 million. Superb missile. Put plutonium in the nose of it. During maintenance. Kills you at 51,000 feet. And flies it into the nearest city. How would you describe the Learjet? Huh?
What's that, Dan?
How would you describe the Learjet? Bombardier systems in it, right? Linked to the Mormons, right? They are superb aircraft. Yep. They can fly 51,000 feet. I said, now, all I have to do is take over the computer. Bombardier system.
Yes.
Switch off the oxygen. You're dead in seconds. They then fly this plutonium-tipped missile into the nearest city.
That's right.
They'd be like Hornets, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And how do you... This is like the light of Brian, isn't it? And if she's heavier than a duck, because a duck floats.
I have to go pee. I have to 3 glasses of water.
That's how a visionary would see these, as being white ones. All the same day. So he buys a beast dart. Legit Bombardier. This was built in Russia. It'd be all fly by stick. Like you have to stay awake. Now these people are totally innocent. $1,643. Push as wind, demonic power, drive, row, drive. Except in certain tenses as an alternative, as this of uncertain affinity to push as wind, oars or demonic power. That's how they describe a jetman. That was Greek. A kernel. Beaten corn. Collectively. That's grain. So that's where the name kernel comes from. This is a lovely story. It's Yahweh and Asherah emerging out of the volcano. Full of holes everywhere. Ricochet marks. Disfigured nose. Eye socket and same chin. So we take Easter Island, the highest point and most eastern, most western. Make them 888.888 miles, nautical miles long, which is what they are. Then you have a distance across the bottom, which is combined number is 3050 nautical miles, 30.50. Yeah. See, what they was doing was measuring everything. So they already had the secrets that kept you out and wouldn't enter in themselves. So the jaw and the are too difficult to remove. But the nose and eyes are much easier task. the ship started taking away invisible features, any more likely than not the female would have had hands on her stomach as being pregnant. Keep in mind how huge these statues are and the time it would take to disfigure it. In fact, it was a week that Cook was there. He feigned sickness by staying on board the ship. So Cook was being led by his angels to accomplish what had to be accomplished. So the obvious is you don't carve one and then another one after it. It's the one after it is the one you want. You carve the one after it where the first one is, obviously. So the 657 is Lord, the verse total, New Testament. So here's where it gets interesting. And remember, this was written some time ago. Nonetheless, it is so. Now, Exodus 34:13. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves, the Asherah trees. This is the first of 24 verses with the word grove. Hebrew concordance is Asherah. The verse number 3413 is Michael, the archangel in Greek. My blood is unusual. Chromosomes 3413 have been examined by the Garden Institute in Sydney. Cook had been given secret orders by the Admiralty to be opened after his scientists had studied the transition of Venus across the face of the Sun, June 3rd, 1769. Ordered to sail south to find an alternative to Australia, he reached 71.102, 7111 south latitude. He was in panic at the time. The ship was free with barge poles as it was being washed against the side of the gigantic ice floe, ready to collapse. 2 Negro men died. Later, Mr. Green from the Greenwich Mean Time Observatory, the head of it, the man who was responsible for getting Harrison, John Harrison, my relative, his £20,000 from the going to King George, and King George III, because he was interested in what Harrison was able to do, he made the Parliament pay the 20,000 over. So there was a Harrison clock on board the Endeavour, which was double-hulled and all hemp sails and ropes and flat bottom. So it was able to withstand crushing into the ice wall, and that really put the shits up on right. But it was at 71.11 south, which is the same number as the length of the El Gigante statue emerging from the side of the volcano at Easter Island, which is the 888 statue, 71.11 feet. Easter Island was later visited by Cook in 1774. Captain Wallis, who had discovered Tahiti, naming it George III Island, sailed directly to Easter Island after he left Tahiti. Samuel Wallis sighted Tahiti on the 18th of June 1767. Cook sighted the comet on August the 30th, 1769, 804 days later. The number is Ashur, the second son of Shem, and the area of Assyria worshipping Asherah, the mother goddess. Assyria, or Athura, Aramaic for Assyria, was a Semitic Akkadian kingdom, extant as with other fellow Semitic Canaan, its peoples. This is why the Khazar Zionist Mongol self-proclaimed Jews invaded Iraq and now are attempting to topple Syria. Palestine, Syria and Iraq, Iran, these are the people of Canaan. Moses forbade Israel to enter the land because of their rebellion. He was shown overlooking Canaan from Mount Nebo, there where he died. But the Jews kept writing, saying they were the chosen, then they could go in. Joshua led them in. Namesake of Jesus, right? 197 times in the Old Testament. Brian Leonard Marshall. So we call El Gigante is the same number, 71 feet 11 inches and 242.4 tons. It is joined to the volcano by a sliver along its back, 71111 in Hebrew, from 7104, Katsaf, meaning to crack off or burst out in rage, provoke to wrath, be wrath. I have been saying for decades the largest statue is the Lord. The scattering of the statues towards the sea is Armageddon. The Jews and their creation, the Zionists, is all about setting up Palestine to be a sacrifice by fire. The Jews intend to swarm in and set up their venom and rule the religious world free from the wrath of God. Sorry, it ain't going to happen. It's not an election. So we put it in Persian. It's relating to Isaiah 63:1 through to 5. Now we see that the eyes come from Marshall Island. So we can measure that. See where we're going here. There's Marshall Island there, right? So 5492. Right. A she-goat is strong, but masculine in the plural, which also is used elliped for goat's hair. She-goat, the kid, from 5810. To be stout, prevail, strengthen, be strong. Very interesting. That's in miles. Nautical miles is a 5036. Vile person, foolish woman. Swiftness, to be ready. Fleet. Now that I got your attention. So that means to prevail, to go through a loop on the top of the pyramid 5813, which is from 5810, which is from 5036. Got kilometres 932. Some 931. Great toe. Rain is king. Brill. So you've got the distance to the Marshall Islands, to the eyes of the priests that have been put out on the altars and their ears chopped off. They no longer could hear God. Suddenly, Mum and Dad are home. They have a heading of 2811. Glory. Right. Jah has regarded. This is where the authority is in Jah. 2803. Think, cunning, consider, conceive the idea, devise. Could you have done it? Could you name all the planets, for example? It's the Job, the oldest book of the Bible, should be first and in big print in all languages. Can you name the stars? When he's debating with Jah, of course at that time he could talk to God. say 9131.06, subtract that number from it and see what you get. Hit your print screen. Start a paint. Paste it in. Save as. Three, 5, Easter, Iron, S, early, 20. So we end up with, let me go back to, the eyes. They have been put out. You see all their hats are missing, they're being blown over with the wind. And their eyes are missing and their ears have been chopped off. There's one, he's still got his hat on, but that was put back on by the crane. 5 tons. These are the women all fleeing. That's what you do. You go to India and you offer everyone $20,000 a piece for 1 hour of tuition to be baptized. So people are flooding out to get the 20 grand. At the end of the day, they want to give it back to you. They won't take the money. Make $1 million. So we put it there in Sri Lanka. I like doing sneaky stuff like that. This one is quite a lovely one, I thought. It shows the location of at 9:42 p.m. directly over the cross. Moon with blood red. Sunlight, therefore, passing through, was in the darkness, and the spectrum had turned it to red. So we get that line to there, to my birth group, and go straight through, and it passes through New Zealand. Okay, now, a little history. This sort of place here. Tavalu. I'd be quite interested to learn that they are the most holy. And actually a measure everything. We've got the Marshall Islands. It's the next more populous, and it is at 7.707 degrees. 7 degrees 7 seconds, 7 minutes, 888 seconds. That's it. 7 degrees 7 minutes, 888 seconds north by 171 degrees 11.069 east. So there you got January 11th, 2013, Leonard, Jehovah. You got 11 of January. You got 171, which is Shrouded Turin. You got 888, which is Jesus, and you got 7. Degrees, 7 minutes, 888 Jesus. So, on Julian Day, 77, that number there, 8881, is June the 17th, 2581 BC. Now, Jesus' birth, I was there at the time, 2 BC, okay, is the 17th of June. 7111 is the length of El Gigante, 71 feet 11 inches, and the 171 is the length of the Shrouded Turin. It is 5046 nautical miles to El Gigante. El Gigante is emerging from the volcano, meaning like man, tried in the furnace, a biblical term like silver refined 7 times in the furnace. The giant at 7111 feet long aligns with Cook sailing to Antarctica. The record of his voyages are manipulated to make it appear his second voyage was to the search for an alternative to Australia. Of course, it's a lie. He left Tahiti on July the 13th, 1769, as he had read secret orders, disgruntling the men, sailed south to 7110 to 71.11 degrees south. Was returning north to New Zealand when he sighted the Messier comet, August the 30th, 1769, just 48 days later. By sailing at just 5 miles per hour, he would have reached the 7111 latitude south and returned over halfway to New Zealand by that time, travelling at 5 miles per hour. 5500 mile trip, arriving 89 days after Tahiti, covering 62 miles a day or an average of 2.57 miles per hour. Remember, you go slow because he's going through ice. This places the ship heading towards Antarctica around 5132 south, 41 days after July 13th, 1769. Had he sailed west, as one report of Endeavour states, he would have reached New Zealand just before this date, not allowing for the easterly winds that would have increased his speed, possibly to as much as 9 knots an hour. In all likelihood, he reached 7111 south on September 11, 1769. Measures says the Metatron angel carrying the baby, 96 conception blood red moon, terrible day of the Lord, or simply doing the math. There are 1979.6168 years. This equals Marshall Island, 77, 888 by 168 west. 723,040 days is 103,291 weeks and 3/7 of a week. Blood moon over my crib, April 3rd, 33 AD, seen in Jerusalem by 7 hours, 7 minutes behind Australia. So November the 14th, 2012 is the beginning of the end of the Joel prophecy. So during the time we've got the darkness of the moon and the rising of the sun and the darkening of the sun. On the 14th the sun will go dark, but for how long? Every eye will see it, and as they did with the blood moon. False as a very idea. So, you get your own badge. You'll do it. So this is the day of Pentecost. But Peter, standing up with the 11, raised his voice and said unto them, Men of Judea, and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and heed my words. What's he talking about? Right now. All I can do here is duplicate slide it. Get rid of that. I quite like that one. Now, before going on, my passport from entering North America and Africa was April the 3rd, 1963. Now, a solar eclipse occurs that year, which is 942 miles from my crib. Okay. And this is a long story. It brings up two dates, however. When my ancestor died on that day. India was one on that day. Why? Lunar eclipse, blood moon, April 3rd, 33 AD, seen all over the world, but where was the moon best seen from? We was in Fiji when we warned Major Rotorua that there would be a blood sacrifice with Opry on the exclusive island off the coast of Fiji, near the first island past the international dateline, where under a rare 400 and how many year?
454.
54?
Really?
That's right, 454 year rarity, there'd be a blood moon on December the 4th, I think.
No, December 21st, 2010.
September the 21st.
No, December.
December the 21st, 2010, of course. I was there. So here's the birth certificate. Here's the entry into Canada. April 3rd, 1963. Expires April 3rd, 1968. That's Canada immigration, January 4th, 1967. April 3rd, 1968. So you can work out how long between that 3rd of April 1963. I'll do it now. In 1963, 3rd of April. Give you one. 1967, January the 4th. $196 weeks and 1372 days. A bare spot on the right side of a cloth. Have you ever heard anything as silly as that?
What's that?
I'm working out two dates, 1963 when I got the passport to January the 4th when I entered Canada, 67. That's 1372. 1372 is, from the same as 1371, baldness in the forehead. Like you don't have hair on your bloody forehead anyhow, do you? By analogy, a bare spot on the right side of cloth. What's that mean?
Right side of the what?
Just says a bare spot on the right side of cloth. Bald forehead or without. Right?
Bald cloth.
Now work that one out. It's a riddle for you. You'd have to find where it appears in the Bible. That'll be your answer. And another one is to thirst. This is in Greek. I'm very, very dry at the moment. So I could use a little bit of your water, darling.
You could say?
Yes. Feels very dry. I've been feeling that way for an hour.
Oh. Wow.
Okay, this water is a square, or rather oblong magnet was dropped in the kitchen here and burst into, inside a bag, and it burst into million bits off one corner. So that is now, splinters are now serving that water as an act of angelic force to make some fuckwit drop it. Huh?
Yes. Whatever you said, Dave.
Yeah. All right. I've got the dates when I arrived in Canada, January 4th. That's the date my mother was conceived on. I always wanted to buy her a property because her name was Daphne. We call it Daffy Land. Now she was conceived in 1911 in Coaldale, I think, down the south coast in a beautiful place near Australia, where it's all pushed up out the ocean, 1,000 feet, Bulli Pass. My idiot father, you know, we're down at Bulli Pass and it's about, I don't know, 400 feet straight drop, and there's a piece of wood over the roots of the trees, and if you stand on it and it breaks, you fall straight down 1,000 feet or so. So he's in the middle of it, showing off. Where's the fucking fence paling?
Oh.
That's what this idiot did, eh? Had no see, I can never do that in front of the kids unless it was funny. But I'd never do anything as drastically stupid as that. So his angel's, he's a complete idiot. His angel is keeping it up, right? That's one of the Marshall family, Michael the Archangel, right? We've all got the same blood. Lunatics. Well, I know Stephen has the same blood because he mentioned the same number to me. And then I told him what it meant. Any urine in that one?
Never.
It's supposed to be deadly for someone else to drink someone else's urine, you know. Because I went to a conference in a university.
Yeah.
Where a guy was...
Because what the body is doing is it's getting all the information from the urine pertaining to what is wrong with your body.
Right.
So if it's getting the information from somebody else, it could kill
But you only need 1 drop in a litre.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because it's homeopathic, right? It's like you put 1 drop of our blood in the bin up in New Guinea, it is forever. That bin will contain our molecules of our blood and keep on replacing the same amount into each of the bottles they get rid of. For free. All the person has to do is bring their bottle of water that they buy from the supermarket and tip it into the bin and fill that right up again and have a sip on the house. So that's a miraculous place. Gabaka Road, right?
Yes.
Is that still on the internet?
Yes, my website is, yes.
How do I find it? I want to do it here for the viewing audience. Gabaka?
Yes.
Gabaka Road.
One word, Tobacco Road.
So we start off with ABC television. This is lovely, isn't it? Good old Jamie Moxton, what is his name? Graham.
Jamie Moxton, Graham.
Very, very, very interesting young fellow. Good age, I believe.
Good.
Turn the volume up, mate.
Australian man who claims he can cure a range of diseases, including AIDS, has been threatened with jail if he returns to Papua New Guinea. It's feared that more than 500,000 PNG nationals may be infected with HIV/AIDS in the next 15 years if nothing is done. And authorities are worried that false treatments will hinder their attempts to prevent it spreading. Papua New Guinea correspondent Steve Marshall reports.
So we...
may not be a trained nurse, but people flock to their home in Port Moresby for this unusual...
I threatened Steve Marshall with if he does something against our name, I will utterly destroy him. You've got to tell the truth, right? Now that is 454 long. Now, if you watch up the back here, excuse me.
As 2 small magnetic plates send electric pulses into his wrist, the patient drinks this special water, which Lucy Ravi claims has extraordinary powers. Lucy Ravi was trained to carry out her controversial treatment by this man, Australian Brian Marshall.
In
She's had the original age for 16 years.
Grant Marshall claims he can rid PNG of HIV/AIDS and other infectious diseases using his electrode water technique.
In the neighbourhood of 400 people have been cured of all diseases, ranging from HIV/AIDS to malaria to TB, gonorrhea, syphilis, because they're blood-borne diseases. And what I've basically done is able to put an electrical current through the blood at the wrist level, which kills off all the viruses and pathogens and germs in the blood.
What you're getting is in the grip of an HIV/AIDS epidemic. According to AusAid, if the virus goes unchecked for the next 15 years, more than
This video is 4:54 long.
the man in charge of the PNG government's response to the epidemic is outraged by Grant Marshall's claims he can cure
This is the newsroom of
This is fraudulent.
Rupert Murdoch's
We know that this water cannot
office,
cure
where they was going to run the story.
It is all just typical confidence, tricking, playing with people's mind, and playing with their wallet, draining them.
Grant Marshall says the water contains an alternative medicine product known as colloidal silver. While it's illegal to make medical claims about its effectiveness in Australia, that's not the case in PNG.
I've seen no evidence at all in any medical literature or even anecdotally support a claim of that sort. That there's any effect of colloidal silver, magnets, electric currents, separately altogether in the treatment and cure of HIV infection in humans.
International development law expert David Patterson says there is a global need to regulate the advertising of cures for HIV/AIDS.
If a lot of people have seen this in a number of developing countries with more extensive
Jesus, that's you.
there's certainly a role for the law in regulating the advertising of cures for HIV, because we don't have a cure for HIV. Up until today, you've had AIDS. Now you have got AIDS. From today on, that's it.
Grant Marshall does not see the danger in what he's doing. His reasoning is alarming.
There is a big backlash that we can come in and do it so cheaply and so conveniently and to the point of curing this. Whereas I believe that there is a conspiracy to keep the AIDS virus to kill off people. What should be done immediately is to establish that this is a fraud case, and the successful in PNG should be arrested and locked up.
Said Marshall reporting. And the website for Melbourne Home.
Can you believe it? Post-Courier. It had to be stopped.
This is the depths of evil that controls the world. Simply put, it had to be stopped. I am closing an eye.
This is doing this by itself, you know. Oh? What it's doing is doing it by itself. I can't remember doing it.
ASIO had also brought a man up 3 months ago to run the printing press. The printing press itself is 60 years old. The men who have been running it were native New Guinea workmen, and all know how to run this ancient press. Yet they brought a man in who looked amazingly like a typical
now stalled.
Federal policeman, and he just happened to be living opposite the Australian High Commission. He had no ink on his fingers. It was going to go to the press on February the 1st, 2009, and was stopped by the Australian. It was then going to press on February the 2nd, 2009. After the reporter had interviewed the government and the AIDS Council, who refused to comment, but said that they were watching me and what I was doing.
You've got a pen that works.
Had the AIDS cure gone to the front page of that small, out of the way Post Courier in Papua New Guinea, it would have echoed around the world.
That was the 2nd, 2009. This is a lovely lady with, she had 4 children. Anu?
Alu.
Alu?
5 children.
Now, a little friend, the nurse,
Madeline.
Magdalene.
Madeline in the background.
Madeline.
No, Magdalene.
Magdalene.
Yeah, Magdalene, yeah.
And we had treated her in a villa. Right?
Yeah, at the beginning, right? Yeah. She told everybody.
Then what happens? Yep.
There's severe tsunami alert. There's been a 7.7 earthquake off the west coast of Canada.
7.7 quake?
Quake off the west coast of Canada.
I'm just mentioning 7.7 degrees, right?
Right. And Karen posted this. So there's a severe tsunami alert, Fukushima and Hawaii.
Tsunami.
Mm. So you know it's a nuke.
Yeah. And here we are in this little thing I've just stopped. This is recording by itself. the lady in the office that was certain this is the greatest story of all time, and it was stopped by a tall geezer who knew me from Melbourne, who had been sent up there at the same time as we were.
The colour of death he was.
Yeah. And here's her son Richard. It's the next day, February the 2nd, 2009. Now see, he's got the sniffles, well, we see with them. Now that's the staff photographer taking this photograph. So this is world news, right? That was a test vaccine they were using on this poor lad 20 years ago.
Thank you very much.
52.8 degrees north, 131.8 degrees west is where. Depth 17.5 kilometres.
We're at the epicenter was.
Thank you very much.
In the Charlotte Islands region.
You got it.
Patrick. The result of a doctor giving him a shot for tuberculosis next morning.
Thank you. Can give me my supplement.
Happy, healthy, 4-year-old boy.
Hold on.
I mean the rough gloves she's got on the shirt. So embarrassing. So she made us those lovely. Where is they?
They're in Bulgaria.
What it's doing is selecting. This is 16140 is selecting. That little girl who was doing the speech. She's being punished. That's why you got an age of being punished. It goes to therefore rejoice ye heavens, ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth.
The devil is, of course, in mankind. From Cain descendant to Cain descendant. This is the demons, the devil.
That's 6122. That's absolutely brilliant. Here we've got Charles, I think, walking. I couldn't walk before.
Congratulations, Thomas.
Thomas. Charles was the one that was blind.
Right.
Little bit. Coming good. Okay. See you once again.
And do you remember that, like we had pain in that arm?
Very good every second. He was actually worse than Peter.
He was worse than Peter. He was almost crippled.
3 years. 3 years. Right.
I used to walk with tablets myself. You got the... Got the cane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm walking in the car. Bring it over, Charlie. Tell me to walk. Keep it down. And if you didn't use that before, you fall over. That's what you see.
Throwing his arms around. We could have a vintage like November 1st vintage of Euro. You certificate 14 days later, during the eclipse. 14-day Euro vintage. It's not the old grey-haired fella behind him as well. He was cured too.
Mm. That was Margaret's father, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did the angel of Jesus tell John in Revelation? Where did I get that? I have no idea where these are coming from. Like the numbers are 6122, for example. How do you look at that? Trickery, a trick, by means of 6117, which is subtly 6117. Swall out or run. Holding by the heel. Take by the heel, stay. Right. That's what we've been talking about the last little while. Mm. Big toe and like that. Mm. And my sore feet.
Mm. You drink more water. And take 2 cups at once, a total of 7 pints per day. This is also from 1946, British doctor.
A child cannot go to school unless he or she has been inoculated.
Uh, 6193.
Why is it not well with goods?
Craftiness.
They do not believe or conceive that the evil that runs the earth is far worse than Hitler or Stalin. These monsters kill people.
Deal subtly. Be crafty. That's the number of this. Why is it not world news?
Cancer is now an epidemic. 50 years ago it was rare. It has been recently revealed that the cancer virus has been placed into the inoculations that the government insists that all people must have. These days, a child cannot go to school unless they are inoculated.
This is They Ask the AIDS Cure. See, these videos are way older. This one's called 5 Janelle.
Money being the root of all evil, hundreds of millions of dollars, actually billions of dollars, have been spent on AIDS awareness programs, and not one person's life has been spared. This was
Oh, is that the one in the car? The
here costs 44 cents. Filled with a corrodal of concentration.
Geelong.
It's still 44 cents because the cost of the concentrated cost is negligible. This bottle here is enough to cure an entire family of viruses, germs, and pathogens and viruses. Roman was able to go after much.
It's now 4 Janelle.
With some good video the leaders of European mental health workers not take them recording on the news of the day. This has become a large something removed in food images. They were saying you know, the tracking well to represent the site and the pictures of the site. When she came to my back camera and they were able to witness the work that we're doing in the beginning. It became obvious that this woman was
it's actually rent.
Yeah.
making it her mission to put her work and myself and the comments that she's left and myself to expose the ground for the mental health patient that she has said that he is. She alluded to him displaying symptoms that she has witnessed and her position, whatever it is, within the mental health system. And it became obvious to me that this woman was making a point of getting right and going after him for a reason. It's part of the work that we're doing it and good work that has always done in educating through changing a cure into a mission and living out in a death sentence. Restoring people from life to death. Now, months
That was back to front, that.
this woman has made her mission to get him. Seems to me that whoever the woman is has a mental health issue herself. So we are recording it as usual. There is nothing about that
concentration camps. Actually, they are concentration camps. The barbed wire facing in, as my son, that's not to keep people out, that's to keep people in. They have gas chambers already set up on site. Outside of them are trains that are being manufactured, train carriages. The largest shipment being 103,000 carriages that were manufactured in China for the USA. These carriages are mostly empty, but they have ventilation systems through around the top of them. Some witnesses who have seen the carriages and have published about there have actually seen guillotines inside these carriages, as well as manacles. And manacles, of course, are to take somebody into bondage and keep them as a prisoner. These camps have been established over the decades with not only the money, but of course the knowledge that comes down through the United Nations. And of course above the United Nations you have those who are eugenists. Now, eugenists believe in natural selection or the survival of the fittest. They go back to the middle of the 19th century, before even the 1878 timeline of the AIDS virus, the development of the AIDS virus begins. And it is their, it's not their religion, actually, as a eugenics, to decide who lives and who dies. Of course, they are the ones that should live. They're superior to the animals with hands, two hands, and eyes. If anybody likes to read them, it's been their targeted and planned genocide of wiping out vast populations of people, beginning with the black population. It's been there behind the scenes that was done by the to smallpox vaccines, hepatitis B vaccines. 15,000 gallons of the AIDS virus under the watch of the Jimmy Carter presidency was dispersed into the world through the smallpox vaccination program, hepatitis B vaccinations, and to Manhattan into the same facility.
So you can say that Iran has the technology now to reuse the banned technology of Jimmy Carter, to reuse the rods. And that's what it's all about. They want to knock over their nuclear facilities to stop them finding a way to reuse the nuclear rods, because it's been leaked.
The scientists were saying after their process that they did develop the rods were safe enough to handle without any protective gear, bare hands.
Iran's done that?
No, the engineer who developed the reuse.
It was from Shell, was it?
No. An 85-year-old. No, it was GE. The guy who designed the original GE reactors in Japan. Yeah. He developed the technology to reuse the fuel from the hot, so there would be nothing left.
Right.
And the rods would be able to be handled with bare hands, so it'd be that safe.
Yeah.
And that was vetoed by Jimmy Carter.
Let's see if we can find it then.
Pardon?
We'll have to see if we can find it then.
Well, I'll send you the link that Jim Stone, Paul and Jim Stone site.
So who was it who done that? An American, was it?
Yeah, an American engineer who worked on, he was responsible for designing the GE reactor in...
Where was it? Where was the reactor, man?
Pardon?
Where was the reactor?
Japan.
Japan.
Mm.
Oh, I see. So that's why Japan has to go.
Mm.
Because they're on the brink of reviving it too.
Well, who knows? It's probably beyond that. Right now, nobody can do anything because they just... Here we go. In my journey of discovery, my investigation into the Fukushima disaster, I interviewed an 85-year-old nuclear engineer who worked in the industry during America's glory days and earned GE over 100 patents. He was one of the engineers who designed Fukushima. So naturally, when conducting a real investigation into such a disaster, a responsible journalist would want that type of reference. I was surprised when my prior study of the reactor systems, they were so thorough that he had no information about Fukushima I did not already dig up. And he was very surprised when I told him details about the inner workings of the reactor he never expected anyone in the media to know. When I started to think I was going to walk away with nothing, he dropped a bombshell on a totally different subject. He opened his new direction of the discussion with the phrase, "My team succeeded in closing the nuclear loop and Carter banned our miracle with an executive order." Here is what followed that introductory line and the reason why we need to ask the Fed and start over. This is what the fellow said in the next part of the interview. "I started in the American nuclear program all the way back at the time of the Manhattan Project, and have been involved in reactor design and nuclear engineering my whole life. There was one answer we all searched for, and it was how to close the nuclear loop. When a reactor such as a boiling water reactor uses fuel, the waste products, which are highly radioactive isotopes that have a different fission characteristic than the fuel, build up in the fuel and poison the nuclear reaction. A reactor such as a boiling water reactor can only use the fuel until it gets contaminated by these isotopes enough to change the nature of the nuclear reactions taking place. The reaction environment inside a boiling water reactor is only one such environment that will work to trigger a chain reaction. And if that spent fuel is put into a reactor made from different materials, those materials can favour the burning of the poisonous isotopes and use the isotopes as fuel when the fuel is purified of them, and therefore have its original radiological characteristics restored. Once that is accomplished, the fuel can go back into the boiling water reactor and used as new. We perfected the second reactor design, which used liquid sodium as a coolant, and the reactor ran much hotter, 1100 degrees Fahrenheit, as opposed to 550 degrees in a boiling water reactor. The liquid sodium circulated inside the reactor in lieu of water, with the heat of the reaction being removed from the system by an heat exchanger which boiled the water outside the reactor for use in producing electricity. The temperature difference and coolant characteristics facilitated the burning of the isotopes. And so you got to use both sides of the reaction. One side produced electricity while poisoning the fuel, and the other side produced electricity while burning the poisons out. This process can be repeated 20 times. And when it is finished, the fuel is dead and no longer hazardous because of all its radiological potential has been used up. It was a dream come true, and Carter banned it by executive order. He specifically stated that the burn down was so complete that the spent fuel was safe to handle directly with bare hands and needed no special care or maintenance at all. He then went on to lament about what a waste of money it was because the fuel is expensive and they were only using it to about 5% of its total potential. He lamented the fact that his life's greatest accomplishment got banned for no good reason, and it was a tremendous waste of money to not use the technology his team developed. Electricity could have been cheap, real cheap, so cheap that homes would not have been heated with oil or natural gas. Electricity would have been the only sensible choice. Furthermore, with a reduction in the price of electricity by at least 10 times, electric cars would have been a no-brainer. This would have been America's free energy future, with the only real cost being maintenance of infrastructure. His take on it was that we are paying too much for electricity. I guess that's how an engineer thinks. He had read my article on Fukushima and liked it, so one would guess his eyes were open to the global conspiracy. Even still, I think he missed the obvious in what he said. And then he goes on to describe his, that is Jim Stone's, take on everything. I'll read that in a minute.
You say Jim Stone?
Jim Stone is the one writing the report.
Ah, right. Brilliant, isn't
He's
it?
the one that interviewed the engineer. The engineer himself didn't know why, he just knew what happened. Jim Stone was putting it together with all of his other research. And so what I'm about to read is
Before we left, we treated 5 women there, and Alu is a testimony to the recovery. She within the hour that she was treated went from death to life, sitting up, hunger returning. We did not say goodbye to Alu because she had got up from her bed where she'd been unable to even say hello to us before we got there, and she went in search of food. Now, the results that...
It was quite funny, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
She'd gone from bedridden up, disappeared looking for food.
Perfect smile on her face, the light shining from her eyes.
Thousands, actually, of people in New Guinea, the ones on the street, the ones who are living their lives as I call it hell. They are witnessing amongst themselves the restoration of their friends and their family members. And so we might have started the ball rolling, however, it's growing larger and larger by the day because of the witness of now thousands of people who... How can you explain seeing a boy one day unable to walk from A to B and A to B is only 10 feet away, having so little life energy, and then the next time seeing him, he's walked 8 kilometres from the main road clinic to the university where he lives. It's these kinds of results that are
8 kilometres. They came in a cab and walked home, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Moses
brought him
in the cab. He paid the fare, you know. There, thanks.
We videoed all of our work as a witness in the testimony to what we're getting to in part. But we were starting with one, two, gonorrhea and syphilis, we've had the same results over and over. So in describing James, I want you to keep in mind this happens to most of our patients. All of the HIV positive patients. Margaret was one who'd been sick for 16 years. She's certainly the one that has been ill the longest. And she responded the same as James. So as I tell you about James, just think about this for all of our patients. James, when he first came to us, barely acknowledged that we were even in the room. He was lifeless, sitting there with his head down, and his friend, good friend, Matthew, had got to know us for 10 days with us every night, and getting to know who Brian is, getting to know his heart and his mind, and mine as well. He observed us both, but particularly Brian, because this was a big statement, taking into a nation like Papua New Guinea, who has been conditioned and educated to believe that there is no cure for AIDS. And certainly on pharmaceutical level, there is no cure. However, the alternative cures through electromagnetic science have been there for years. So Matthew, as our witness, if you like, felt comfortable enough after 10 days to suggest that his very good friend, long-time friend, James, could be our first patient. So we met in Matthew's office in the Chisa house, and we met James. When I think about James, actually I want to cry, because he was a dead man. And we told him that it didn't matter what he had. He was HIV positive for 6 years, and he lived his life of barely existed. Unable to work, living under the same roof, but separated from his wife. And anyway, we hooked him up to the pulsar. We had him drink 1.5 litres approximately of the colloidal silver with the ozone added to it in the water, and then we treated him with the electromagnetic flush, which again is an applied source of energy held close to all the lymph gland areas of the body and soft tissue of the brain. This is where viruses hide if they're not in the bloodstream. We treated James that first time for 2 hours, and then we agreed to meet him back there at 5 o'clock that afternoon. And he got there before us. And when we walked in, he was a different man. He was a man with life about him. Not only that, Matthew told us that James had already said to him that when he left us in the morning, he drove home some distance, about a 20-minute drive. It was the first time in years that James had been able to drive his truck and not have to pull over to the side of the road and have a power nap in order to continue his journey to get to his home. He already said that he felt like a new man. We treated him the second time. He came back the next morning for a third treatment. He told Matthew again, I had was getting slept peaceably for the first 9 years. He woke up and he bounded out of bed the next morning, put on his shoes and socks and got dressed as if there had never been anything wrong with him. His wife was so surprised. She looked at him and said, I don't know you. Who are you? And he said to her, I do not have any sickness in my body anymore. And she was so delighted with him, she gave him 5 kina, much to James' delight. James collects bottles. He drives his beat-up old truck, and he collects glass bottles. He buys and sells them. That's how he exists. You have to understand that in Port Moresby there's 85% unemployment. And so James buys and sells glass bottles. And it's heavy work because he loads up the back of his ute and away he goes, collecting and then selling bottles so that he can live. James went back to work that first afternoon. On his drive home, he went straight out to work, and then he came to his second treatment. The third treatment the following morning, the peaceable night's sleep, wine. He came back for a fourth treatment that afternoon, and James sat on the floor at Gabacca Road with Nix and Mary around, and we are all a witness to a man who was happy and laughing and ready to tell the world that he had been cured of AIDS, that he had no sickness in his body. James, on our second visit, was too busy to see us because he was so busy with his business, buying and selling glass bottles. We didn't see him 2 days after his treatment when he came to buy and sell bottles at the Gabacca Road compound, and he called out to us in a really strong voice, and he said he was feeling great, flexing his muscles and calling himself James Bond. Matthew, his very good friend, reports to us frequently that James is doing just great, and now that's all these months later, we're in May, and that was October the 22nd was his first treatment in 2008. James is typical of each one of the now multitudes that have been treated with the protocol that we introduced. We left the equipment behind with Lucy and Jimmy, both treated. Jimmy in a very poor condition when we treated him. Jimmy is particularly ready to the work that we began there, and also to Brian's himself as to who the man is. Brian is a man who's compassionate, and is a man who does something when there is a wrong. He, in all the time that we've been together, and it's weeks at a time, not once have I seen anything other than friendly, compassionate, talking constantly about the cure to the patients. He talks only about the cure, and the first thing we both say when patients come is that if you're HIV positive, if you have AIDS, it doesn't matter who might have by the time we're finished with you. Right there, we speak life, and Brian is about life. What was we've been given a death sentence, the whole nation has, by virtue of the education and the ignorance of those who are doing what they think to be the right thing, but they haven't been told the other side of the story, so that's what we set out to do. And Brian is always, I've not once seen him upset in any way, shape or form. He takes hours, if that's what's necessary, to explain in great detail the cure and the truth about the agenda that has been afflicting the world for years now, particularly not from the beginning. He's brilliant. That's it in a nutshell. People pick it up. He is small children love him. They flock to him.
The computer's doing it for us. Well, that goes to figure, huh?
tsunami should hit Hawaii in around 20 minutes.
Tsunami should hit, they
Hawaii.
say, how fast is it travelling and how high are they?
Well, I just booked in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Late in the afternoon there. And she said that the birds were still going. Where
Right. Honey, did you hear that?
What's that, look?
The tsunami is due to hit Hawaii in an hour and 20 minutes.
Really, how big?
Yes.
Alright.
Where's it coming from?
Well, it's coming from that earthquake that happened off the coast of Canada.
Yes. And it still had a lot of aftershocks.
The 7.7?
7.7, yeah.
That's just lots of aftershocks.
Mm.
Alright, well let's flatten the tsunami. I think I need to flatten the tsunami.
Yeah, done. Mm.
By the time it gets there, it'll be
Yeah,
over.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is taken at the Bradman house. From Bradman? You built that?
Oh gosh.
It was the toilet and laundry.
Mm.
Wow, that's a decent size toilet.
Yeah.
The toilet and laundry, and then this actually was later that the room was added onto the toilet.
It would develop into AIDS, and the person would die from it within a reasonable period of time because it could bypass the natural human defences. If the strength was 108, the person would manifest with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. If it was 107, they would present as wasting. They wouldn't die and they wouldn't see disabled.
Retake that bit.
What go on?
About the blood pH.
Alright. Can't find it.